So, boom, this past Sunday was Father's Day, right? And you know what's so funny is that all of my friends who have their father present in their life, I reached out to them and I was like, hey, what are you doing with your dad for Father's Day? Because my father's not in my life. He's no longer on this earth. And I never had the opportunity to actually meet him. My father was in my life until I was 3 years old. But due to reasons unknown, I don't know why he was not in my life after that. Now, there are some speculations and some ideas as to why he was not in my life, but because my mother is one of those women that are very, very old school, she's not one to hash things from the past. So I have been unable to get the real reason as to why my father was no longer in my life. Now, to my understanding, when I was growing up, when I asked about my dad around Father's Day, this was my first memory of Father's Day. I was in kindergarten class and the teacher was doing cards for Father's Day. And she gave everybody construction paper and we were doing like pop-up Father's Day cards where if you put a slit in the mouth and you open up the card, it looks like the mouth was talking. And I remember telling the teacher, I was like, but I don't have a father. Who can I make the card to? And she said, well, you can make it for your mom. So I made my mother a Father's Day card. And I remember going home and asking my mom, Mommy, what about my father? And she said, well, God is your father. And I said, yeah, but like my real father. And she said he left before I was born because he didn't want me. Simple as that. And for years, I internalized that. And I said, well, what was it about me that he didn't want? So when I was 13 and my mom kicked me out of the home, I remember feeling completely lost, not having any direction, not having a place to go. And because I was like a very young-minded 13, like I was like being 13 back in the day is not like being 13 now. The 13-year-olds now are super, super grown, super grown. But I was still a kid. Waking up early to watch Arthur, to watch Zaboomafoo. I lived for all the cartoons. I played with toys. Like I was still very young-minded, and I very much believed in magic and making wishes on a star and guardian angels and fairy godmothers. I wanted to believe it all. And I remember when the reality hit that I couldn't go back home, I had this idea. That like maybe I could find my father. Mind you, I never knew what he looked like. Never. But I thought, he must in some way look like me. And on days where I just didn't know where to go, I will go to Broadway Junction. It's a train station in New York that has these long, steep steps that, oh my God, if you fell down those steps, it's over for you. And at the bottom of Broadway Junction, where the A trains are and the C trains are, there's a little precinct right there. And there's these benches in between the two bathrooms on the platform upstairs. And I would sit on those benches and I would just people watch. For hours, I would just people watch and watch people come and go. And I thought that maybe, just maybe, I could find my father, that I could. And I don't know what I was thinking back then. What I was just going to go up to every random guy that kind of looked like me and ask them if he was my father. I didn't know what I was thinking, but I just knew that I didn't have anybody, that I felt completely alone in the world. And I wanted to believe with all my heart that maybe I could find my father and my father could save me and I wouldn't have to be out in the street anymore, and that I could have a home. My father back then was every type of superhero you can think of. On nights where I would stay on a park bench to sleep and I was having trouble sleeping, I would imagine that my father was like a millionaire. This millionaire who would come and save me, and I would live this like grand life. Or I would imagine that my dad was like a police officer and he was going to come find me and help me. Or maybe he was a firefighter. And it was that belief that my dad was going to come save me that gave me hope and promise that things were going to get better. And my father never did. He never came. So when I was 27, I started to try to look for him again. I tried to find my dad before in the past. And I wound up eventually finding him. How I found him was actually a really crazy story. And if you want to know that, I'll be more than happy to tell you. But when I finally did find him, he had passed. And I remember that day. I remember feeling like the little girl that hoped and prayed that one day he would come. I felt my soul and my spirit being crushed completely. And I felt like the world yet again let me down. And that all that I had ever wanted in this world was gone. The hopes that I could have a parent that cared for me, that would love me unconditionally, that would welcome me with open arms, that was gone. So I reached out to my friends because I wanted, in a way, to celebrate my dad. Even though he's not in this physical world, I wanted to try to build some sort of relationship because there's this emptiness that I feel. It's almost like a puzzle that has a piece missing. And I will never know what the full image is because the piece is gone. And if there's one thing that I could, like, I know he's gone. But if there's one thing I could ask for, it would be to at least hear his voice, to know what he sounded like, to have been able to hug him, to know what his arms felt like around me. And I know that those are things that I will never get to experience because he's not here. And how do you build a relationship with someone who's no longer on this earth? And I still don't know the answer. I didn't know what to do on Sunday as a fatherless child. I thought maybe I should go to church. Maybe I should light a candle. Maybe I should do something that he liked. But that's it. I don't know any of those things. I don't know anything that he liked. Maybe besides coffee and the things that my siblings from my father's side have shared with me. But he's still a stranger to me. And sometimes I still feel so lost. Sometimes I still feel like that little girl waiting in Broadway Junction, hoping and praying that I will find him. And you know what's the fucked up part about it? My dad lived 3 train station stops away from me my whole entire life. If I would have gotten on that A train and took it 2 stops, maybe, just maybe, I could have bumped into him. But that will never happen. And that will never be. And I just have to make peace with that and move on and learn how to honor him and also honor myself. So yeah. What do you do for Father's Day when you don't know who your father is? How do I feel close to him even though he's a stranger? How do I feel close to myself? Those are the questions I don't know how to answer.